Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And this particular episode, is about a work that I have discussed a few times previously because it's just a piece that I obsess over. But there are performances that I think really are some of the greatest recordings ever. It's not just because it's a great work, which of course it's going to be a great work. The work in question is Mozart's Divertimento in E-flat for string trio. For those of you who care, it's Koelschel 563. That makes it, for Mozart anyway, a late work. And it's an unbelievable piece of music. And, you know, one of the reasons that I talk about these performances so often, not just these particular recordings, but the work itself, is because it's, you know, we should all agree on what the really great works are. And this is simply the greatest string trio ever conceived. I mean, it's hard to find another one that you could offer as belonging to, you know, in that category. I mean, maybe one of Beethoven's string trios or the Dvorak trio, but I you know, those are great too. Don't get me wrong. But the work itself is of just shatteringly death-defying, unbelievable greatness. And it's typical of Mozart because Mozart was almost always at his best when he could work on a large canvas. You know, we say this, you know, over and over, that the classical period was one of restraint and taste and poise and, you know, classic Greek architecture and, you know, that kind of stuff, right? But that's not true. It's not true at all. All the classical composers liked bigness. Haydn liked big orchestras. His oratorios were the largest pieces until like Berlioz, just about. I mean, you know, in the French Revolutionary stuff, which was a whole different thing. But I mean, you know, in the repertoire. And Mozart, of the three great classical composers, Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven, he was arguably the grandest in scale of all of them. I mean, his operas. I mean, just his operas. What else do I need to say? You know, the criticism that he wrote too many notes. You know, that we saw in Amadeus and things like that. But you know, Idomeneo, which is just immense. It's just he saw music on a very grand scale. And the irony is that, first of all, this is a divertimento. And divertimento means something light, like one of the serenades. And like the serenades, I mean, the serenade, divertimento, partita, it all meant the same thing, which was a multi-movement composition in somewhat loose forms. You would have some dance movements and maybe even a concerto movement if it was for orchestra, a couple concerto movements, and a big sonata form opening and ending, and a theme and variations, and a slow movements. And, you know, they could have anything as long as there was a batch of them. And it was meant for more casual listening than, for example, a symphony. And it was, what made it casual was that it was bigger, that it was longer, and that the structure was more diverse. Anyway, Mozart wrote tons of these. He was the master of this because it allowed him to basically do whatever he wanted. And nothing was more amazing than this string trio, because here it is, a work on the grandest possible scale, much like the grand partita for wind instruments too, the grand partita, which is immense of its type. And this sucker is 47 minutes long in this performance in 6 movements. The performance is by Trio Zimmermann on Bis, and there is no greater performance of it. I mean, it's just an astonishingly marvelous performance, and it's amazingly well recorded in DVD sound. And the thing that's so great about this performance, I think, or one of the things, is that you've got these 3 string players and you're recording them, and it's not too close. You don't hear them gasping and moaning unduly. You don't hear all kinds of performance noises. You just hear gorgeous, glowing, perfectly matched string sound. I mean, the players are Frank Peter Zimmermann, violin, Antoine Temestit, viola, and Christian Poltera, cello. I mean, they're all great soloists. They're all great players in their own right. But they come together here, and it's just a remarkable thing. By the way, the finale, the rondo, has a tune which is a different rhythm, but basically the same tune as Schumann's The Happy Farmer. You know that one? Well, this is... It's very, very similar. It's one of those tunes. It's really fun. But be that as it may, you have 6 movements. You've got an allegro, then you've got an adagio, then a minuet, then an andante, then another minuet, and then a concluding rondo. And that there are only 3 string players, and that it never for 1 second sounds like the textures are thin or lacking in variety at any point. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's as rich and full and varied and texturally interesting a piece as anybody ever wrote. But it's only 3 strings. And it's the challenge, you see, that makes it so great. Because when Mozart takes up a challenge like this, he just does his best work. He did it with the Haydn quartets. He did it with this. He did it with the Grand Partita. He did it with the great Da Ponte operas, which reimagined what opera buffa could be. I mean, all of that. And the way he did it, the way Mozart does it, is by giving us more music. That's what makes Mozart so great. We get more music. He doesn't waste time. He's not noodling. He's giving us great music. And he has so much to say. And he's so good at what he has to say that the result is just an unbelievable masterpiece. And this, I think, more than almost any other work of his, shows you just what a genius he was, number one. And number two, it's just one of the most glorious pieces of string chamber music anybody ever wrote. And this recording of it, which is just perfection. I mean, in terms of balance and intonation and phrasing and rhythm and all of those qualities. There are other great performances of this work. I know there's the Grumio Trio, maybe first and foremost, and lots of people have done them fairly recently. And since the Mozart year, it's kind of been rediscovered because it's hiding. It's hiding as a string trio. It's hiding as a divertimento. Something light, something frilly, something but it's just stunningly, shatteringly great. And one way or another, you need to hear it. And this is going to get included, whether it's this recording or another one. This work belongs in every series that I can manage to stuff it into. And it's going to get stuffed and crammed accordingly. So keep on listening, friends. And thanks so much for joining me. Take care.